It's really ironic because while Biden is pushing for an electric dream, the middle class seems to be giving EVs the cold shoulder. The middle class's aversion to EVs is causing a significant problem: poor sales. Even industry giants like Ford are feeling the pinch, losing a whopping $36,000 on each EV sold. GM is no exception, facing losses across its entire range. Even Tesla had to lower its prices. So, a brutal decision is coming up. Everyone is wondering if the Biden administration is going to shut down EVs. Well, let's dig a bit deeper. So what's going on? Why are people ditching EVs? And is there a chance that EVs are nothing more than a scam? Before we delve into the details, let's take a closer look at Biden's aggressive push for EVs and why it might be causing more harm than good. First off, it's no secret that the auto industry is like a giant puzzle, and swapping out gasoline-powered pieces for electric ones is no small feat. Biden's plan has carmakers scratching their heads about how to keep making money from gas guzzlers while investing big bucks into new electric setups. And that's not the only roadblock. The timeline is so aggressive that carmakers and suppliers might struggle to get their hands on the materials needed to build those shiny new EV batteries. We're talking about metals like lithium, nickel, cobalt, and manganese, which aren't exactly growing on trees. Tom Stricker, Toyota's group vice president, said that while the company shares the objective of reducing carbon as much as possible, as soon as possible, the current target is not feasible. The proposed rule underestimates key challenges, including the scarcity of minerals to make batteries, the fact that these minerals are not mined or refined in the US, the inadequate infrastructure, and the high cost of battery electric vehicles, Stricker said. Now, let's talk money. Even with Uncle Sam waiving a $7,500 tax credit at consumers, EVs still come with a hefty price tag. As of the end of 2022, the average new car costs around $49,507, while an EV can set you back $61,448. And don't forget range anxiety. That fear of getting stranded with a dead battery because there aren't enough charging stations. It's a real concern, especially for those of us who aren't early adopters of new tech. But wait, there's more. The Biden administration is facing a potential showdown in the legal arena. Skeptics are already throwing shade, saying these rules could get wiped off the map by the courts or a future president. Imagine putting all that effort into planning the ultimate road trip, only to have someone slam on the brakes. Now here's the plot twist. The auto industry is already making moves towards an all-electric future. Big players like General Motors, Ford, Volkswagen, and others are putting their foot on the EV gas pedal. Ford alone plans to spend a whopping $50 billion on electric vehicle production, with new battery factories popping up like mushrooms. But they're not out of the woods yet. Getting the materials for those batteries is like searching for a needle in a haystack. And speaking of costs, some companies are already feeling the pinch. General Motors admitted it's not raking in the dough from its EVs, and Ford's electric division is set to lose a cool $3 billion this year. The Biden administration is banking on EV costs dropping as more of them hit the road, but some big shots in the industry aren't so sure. They say the raw materials are scarce, expensive, and about as stable as a spinning top. And what about the American drivers? Well, there's good news for fans of renting cars. Rental companies like Hertz are beefing up their fleets with electric vehicles. It's a smart move. Renting lets folks kick the tires without committing to a long-term relationship with an EV. Plus, these companies are cashing in on some sweet tax credits. However, critics are already throwing shade at these regulations, saying they're a one-way ticket to banning the cars we all know and love. The oil and gas industry, for example, is crying foul, claiming these rules will hurt our wallets and make us more dependent on foreign oil. And don't forget about the legal drama. Remember those Republican attorneys general? They're flexing their muscles, ready to challenge these rules faster than you can say electric revolution. Former President Trump's rollback of auto pollution regulations might even become the blueprint for a future president. But Biden's enthusiasm for EVs is evident in his numerous initiatives aimed at propelling the electric revolution forward. However, critics argue that these efforts focus more on boosting the EV market rather than directly addressing the high costs associated with EVs. Biden's administration set an ambitious goal: 50% of all new vehicle sales to be electric by 2030. While this signals commitment, it doesn't address the financial burden on consumers. Biden has allocated nearly $9 billion to Ford for EV production, favoring domestic brands over foreign ones. While this supports the industry, it may not directly make EVs more affordable for consumers. Despite Biden's push, over 3,000 car dealers representing major brands are urging caution. They argue that there's a lack of genuine demand for EVs, and the current state of EV sales is far from promising. While the Biden administration aims for a revolutionary 50% EV market share by 2030, dealers report that EVs are sitting unsold on their lots, even with slashed prices and incentives. Dealers point to several issues hindering the widespread adoption of EVs. One major concern is the inadequate charging infrastructure. Owning an EV means needing convenient charging options, which are currently lacking. Additionally, the energy grid isn't fully prepared for a massive shift to EVs. Another significant obstacle is the perception of EVs being expensive and less practical. Consumers question the rationale behind paying $60,000 to $70,000 for a car with limited range when gasoline-powered alternatives are more cost-efficient. The intricate supply chain involving critical minerals, many sourced from China, also raises concerns about relying on a single country, especially in the midst of financial tensions. Major automakers, including Ford and GM, are reassessing their EV strategies. Ford scaled back plans for a new battery factory, and GM adjusted its EV production targets, citing slowing growth in EV sales. Both companies have halted production of specific EV models. It seems like the race towards an electric future has hit a speed bump, with the industry reconsidering the pace of EV integration. Former President Trump, known for his skepticism towards rapid EV adoption, questions the high cost, practicality, and potential threat to the traditional auto industry. He emphasizes economic nationalism, expressing concerns about the impact of EV mandates on jobs, industry stability, and America's standing in the automotive world. While Biden is pushing aggressively for EVs, this has raised concerns among union workers, worried about job security in the transition to electrification. United Auto Workers President Shawn Fain wrote in May, "The federal government is pouring billions into the electric vehicle transition with no strings attached and no commitment to workers. We want to see national leadership have our back on this before we make any commitments." Biden's initiatives, though well-intentioned, seem to focus more on boosting the EV market and projecting a progressive image than directly addressing consumer affordability. This has led to a situation where American families are not as excited about adopting EVs as the administration might have hoped. Dealers cut prices and offer attractive leases due to slow EV sales, but vehicles linger on lots, affecting funds. Rushing EV adoption without considering demand, infrastructure, and economy may lead to setbacks. If political agendas override consumer needs, a major car manufacturer could face closure. Congress warns automakers tax breaks may be impacted if key components come from foreign entities of concern, or FEOC automakers. Anticipating this, adjust supply chains to avoid China, and the Treasury Department assures clarity on rule awareness and shifts. Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally Adeyemo assured us that automakers are on the ball, adjusting supply chains to secure those tax credits. But hey, these changes take time, and companies are investing in the shift. The goal? Boosting U.S. supplies of batteries and critical minerals. Proposed rules for 2024 demand clean vehicles without FEOC battery components. By 2025, critical minerals are also excluded. Challenge arises as China dominates cathode and lithium-ion battery production. To ease the transition, a grace period is suggested for EVs placed in service after January 1st. Senator Joe Manchin opposes, citing inadequate measures against Chinese-made batteries, considering potential Congressional Review Act action. On the flip side, the National Mining Association is cheering for the new rules. They see it as a step forward to tackle China's stronghold on EV supply chains. And they're also saying, hey, we need more domestic mining and processing. Speaking of complexity, Ford is dancing on a fine line. They want to build a battery plant in Michigan, But here's the twist. China's CATL will supply technology and some workforce. It's like Ford's doing the electric slide with China. Will the batteries from this plant qualify for tax credits? That's a head-scratcher. In a nutshell, the road ahead for EVs is looking a bit bumpy. It's all shaping the future of electric vehicles. So whether you're eyeing an EV or just curious about the electrifying ride ahead, keep your seatbelt fastened, because the electric journey is currently full of twists and turns, with no permanent policy nailed in yet.